We weave 100% human hair to your hair for a natural, youthful appearance. You'll look years younger and feel better today. Call 466-4200 now or visit Mr. Ray in Baltimore for the best hair weave at the lowest price in town.
Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal and this is another expedition log. Today we finally right the wrongs that I committed when I released what many consider to be my worst episode, ExLog 2, back in 2017. The location we'll be touring has incredibly rad aesthetics and a questionably occupied main concourse. As always, I'm rooting for all of you every day and wishing you all the best health, wealth, and happiness. Also, if you're not already, please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell for all notifications so you know when I release new content on this channel. Make sure to also follow me on Twitter and Instagram and to join the Dead Malls of Discord server. All links are right in the description below for easy access. For your consideration, I present a necessary tautology or retelling of a previous episode, and I would like you to come take a walk with me through the Eastpoint Mall in Baltimore, Maryland. But first, a word from our sponsors. Mr. Ray with incredible 90's vibes and his narrator with a luscious old-school Baltimore accent. A brief word from Errol's video rental, and then a familiar commercial restored in its entirety. Enjoy.
What? Don't get mad. Get even better with Mr. Ray. Mr. Ray's Hair Weave for men and women. Stop in today for a free consultation. No appointment necessary. Mr. Ray's Hair Weave at 2700 West Cold Spring Lane in Baltimore. Or call 466-4200. That's 466-4200.
We weave 100% human hair to your hair for a natural, youthful appearance. You'll look years younger and feel better today. Call 466-4200 now or visit Mr. Ray in Baltimore for the best hair weave at the lowest price in town.
You just got a new
VCR so you can watch movies at home. You need to join a video club with lots of movies, different movies with lots of copies. Count the movies. Errol's has a lot of movies. Oh,
Eastpoint Mall. It's in your mall. You've never seen shopping quite like this. It's better than you've ever seen. You know it's great inside and we're full of pride. We want you to see our dream. We got the family covered from head to toe. There's just no better place to go. Eastpoint Mall. It's in your mall.
Joseph Meyerhoff, born 1899 and émigré from Ukraine to the US in 1906, would go on to be one of Baltimore's biggest philanthropists. Mr. Meyerhoff was responsible for countless developments throughout Baltimore, including the Meyerhoff Symphony Hall, home of the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, and a hall in which I've enjoyed and played my violin for many concerts. Meyerhoff also developed the awesome Edmondson Village Shopping Center, which was anchored at its inception by Hochul Cohn and Food Fair. But he was also responsible for the Eastpoint Shopping Center in East Baltimore County, which opened as an open-air mall in 1956. The layout was typical for malls of this configuration in the 50s and 60s, with outdoor courtyards lined with shops that connected the two main anchors at either end. The mall would be enclosed by 1973, featuring an awesome, locally designed fountain and trees littering the concourse. Then by 1991, the mall would gain its vaporwave-soaked redevelopment, with the awesome neon-clad food court and atrium still intact today. But let's dive a bit deeper into the historical narrative for Eastpoint Mall. Welcome to East Baltimore County, complete with its gilded sewage treatment plant providing the general aroma throughout Dundalk and Essex. The place really does smell like sewage. It's a very distinct odor. Can't really describe it. But specifically, nestled right here along Eastern Avenue is the star of ExLog 2 from 2017. In my last episode on this mall, back in 2017, I neglected to show you the most awesome parts of this place, and I'm really sorry about that. Concordantly, I failed to tell an accurate accounting of the historical narrative, just touching some random facts about this mall's history as I rambled on off the top of my head. So as we make our approach off of Eastern Avenue into the mall, let's go back to the beginning and get the full story and tautology of Eastpoint Mall's full history. And in this episode, we're going to enter through the back entrance of the mall directly into the food court, which I neglected to show you last time. I present to you the Eastpoint Mall in 2020. In the mid-1940s, famed Baltimore philanthropist Joseph Meyerhoff and his construction company called Monumental Properties Incorporated had planned on bringing a gigantic new shopping center to the far east side of Baltimore County at the intersection of Eastern Avenue and North Point Road. The project fell silent for nearly a decade as more developments popped up in the surrounding areas. But the next mention was on December 23, 1954, in a Baltimore Sun article, when the Hochschild Cone department store was expanding their footprint to a new location at the Harrendale Mall. The article then goes on to mention a fifth proposed Hochschild's location at a prospective multi-million-dollar shopping center in the eastern suburbs of Baltimore County to be developed by Mr. Meyerhoff and his associates. On Sunday, April 17, 1955, a formal announcement was posted in the Baltimore Sun describing a V-shaped development with 37 stores and 2 anchor department stores. This new mall would be built atop historic ground across which American and British troops maneuvered over what is now known as North Point Road during what turned out to be the attack on Fort McHenry during the epic Battle of Baltimore in the War of 1812. We then battled through 2 world wars, and in the 50s, in a post-World War II society, growth was key, and with the war industry gone, commerce could bloom. This new shopping center would be developed by Joseph and Jacob Meyerhoff, and would come on the tails of Baltimore's first planned shopping outlet, the Edmondson Village Shopping Center, which had opened a few years prior on May 7, 1947. Now, as we saw in my last 2 ExLogs, which chronicled the development and fate of Forest City's 3 Akron, Cleveland, Ohio area malls, Chapel Hill, Rolling Acres, and Tower City Center, these 3 malls were built extremely close to each other, and ultimately, only one was left standing. However, Edmondson Village and the new East Baltimore County shopping complex would serve entirely different areas, since Baltimore City was separating the 2, and nobody wanted to go through Baltimore City to one or the other shopping center. This point is key, because back in Akron, there was really nothing separating Chapel Hill and Rolling Acres, and they basically served the same neighborhoods. This is why I think Tower City Center survived, since it was nestled in downtown Cleveland and served an entirely different market. If you'd like to hear this entire story, go back and watch ExLogs 92 and 93. Plans for Meyerhoff's new mall went ahead as planned. Construction began shortly after the 1955 announcement and would take just over a year to complete. The Eastpoint Shopping Center, billed as Baltimore's newest and largest regional shopping district, had its grand opening and dedication ceremonies on Wednesday, October 10th, 1956. The open-air mall was anchored by a 2-floor, 40,000 square foot Hutzler Brothers department store, or Hutzlers, and a 100,000 square foot Hoschel Cone, featuring multiple departments for things like housing, apparel, home furnishings, appliances, a garden shop, and a lunch counter with fountain drinks on tap. But the connection of these two department stores, specifically with regards to this exact grand opening, go much deeper with familial roots. Cutting the ribbon at the Hoschel Cone was none other than Max Hoschel, founder of the chain, but long since retired, yet still ebullient, cutting the ribbon of the new store at 101 years old. The second senior anchor was a Hutzler's, and present with pint-sized scissors was Jimmy Hutzler, the youngest son of Albert Hutzler, president of the Hutzler Brothers Company. Jimmy, then 5 years old, cut the ribbon on the new department store, which would operate directly across from the Hoschel Cone. Despite these two chains existing as rivals in the art of merchandising, young master Jimmy Hutzler was actually the great-grandson to Max Hoschel. The two chains would operate in harmony, drawing tons of traffic to the nascent Eastpoint shopping district. As you'll notice in ExLog 2, I said Hochschild Kern. From the research that I've been able to do and all of the commercials that this company has put out, they say Hoschel Cone. So that's what I'm going with now. It's Hoschel Cone. The new mall, financed through the Connecticut General Life Insurance Company, cost $10 million to build, and adjusting for inflation in 2021 dollars, today that would have come at a cost of $101,866,791.04. Eastpoint had a footprint of 350,000 square feet and parking for 4,000 cars. The mall was designed by architect Kenneth Cameron Miller, and during its development, it had multiple traffic issues that needed to be resolved, even after opening. So Meyerhoff brought in Wilbur C. Smith of Yale University's Bureau of Highway Traffic to consult on solving these traffic issues, which the developers worked with the State Roads Commission on designing an internal roadway for the mall to handle the heavy traffic flow from the adjacent boulevards. Eastpoint's development also brought traffic lights to help with this seriously augmented amount of congestion to the area, which helped considerably. At grand opening, a total of 40 tenants opened at Eastpoint, including the two senior anchors and junior anchors Gutman's, Penn Fruit, Food Fair, and a G.C. Murphy. One long, open-air, yet covered walkway connected the two senior anchors and included tenants such as Baker's Shoes, Barenberg Optical Service, Bishop's Pet Shop, Empire Laundry and Dry Cleaners, Hess Shoes, Lerner Shops, Reed's Drug Stores, Rice's Bakery, Arundel Ice Cream, and the White Coffee Pot Restaurant. Back in the late 1950s and into the 60s, when open-air malls were still largely being developed, the department stores were the main draws. Many of these huge department stores were well over 100 or 200,000 square feet, and featured air conditioning and escalators as the big selling points for coming in the doors. Franchised chains weren't yet mainstream, and despite numerous tenants along the walkway connecting these two anchors, the lavish department stores were the place to be. But you have to remember that it was a different time back then. It was a different world, and there were some questionable practices that went down to attract customers. At the Hoschel Cones, there was a corner window display that featured a cement pool with what I can only hope was cold water, housing live penguins behind two panes of thick glass so kids couldn't break it. The little penguins would jump around and swim in the water, which shoppers could see from the outside and inside. A similar display was stationed at the Hess Shoes here at Eastpoint Shopping Center, where a display called Monkey Town, where monkeys swung around as folks shopped. I'm not too sure what to think about something like Monkeytown or the Hochul Cohn's Penguins, but if I saw this today, I'd probably look at it and think it was cute for a second, but man, those poor animals. Back then, these two attractions went on year-round, and that blows my mind. Let me know what you think down in the comments about Monkeytown and the Hochul Cohn Penguins. I'm sure your opinions will be all over the place, but I'd like to hear your thoughts and talk to you about it anyway. Around the time after the Cold War, developers were seeking to expand that indoor oasis concept, which was ushered in by Victor Gruen. And through the 1970s, most outdoor malls saw redevelopments to enclose, and most new malls would be fully enclosed from the start. Eastpoint was no exception to this movement, and would finally see its first redevelopment just 17 years after its grand opening. On Tuesday, April 11th, 1972, it was announced that work had begun to fully enclose the Eastpoint Shopping Center, and that the improvements would cost several $1 million. Work would continue through the year, into the summer of the next, and by Sunday, May 27th, 1973, developers took out a full-page ad in the Baltimore Sun with a creepy sun logo, letting shoppers know that the Eastpoint Mall was now open for business, with the ribbon cutting occurring over the Memorial Day weekend, despite some ongoing construction. They wrote, quote, "The only thing we've cooled is the temperature at the all-new climate-controlled Eastpoint Mall. Come stroll the beautiful sunlit brick and carpeted walkways that are studded with tropical plantings, live flowers, and dandelion fountains." Close quote. By Wednesday, August 8th, 1973, the remaining construction at Eastpoint Mall was coming to an end, as detailed by Tom James in an article published in the Evening Sun. He goes on to write about the former open-air shopping center and others like it, in less than flattering words. He writes, quote, "The shopping centers born 17 years past were ugly infants whose suburban locations justified their existence. They didn't have to look good to do business, they just had to be there. And the ugly infants became uglier adolescents." Close quote. He then goes on about the redevelopment efforts. Quote, "Fortunately, ugly born does not mean ugly be. The marketing men found that it pays to be pretty as well as functional. Eastpoint is undergoing an eye, ear, nose, and throat job, along with a pedicure and wholesale tooth capping." Close quote. Locals adored the new Eastpoint Mall, and business was thriving. Then on Wednesday, February 13th, 1974, it was announced that a JCPenney would be constructed, coming to the mall as its third senior anchor. Construction began in 1975, and after about a year, JCPenney opened as the Eastpoint Mall's third senior anchor by September 1st, 1976. Meandering into the 1980s, Hochul Cohn's was failing, and the Hutzler's chain was buying up Hochul's stores in the area. This included the location at Eastpoint, which Hutzler's bought later in 1984, but the chain made no announcement on closing the Hochul's just yet. The following year, Eastpoint Mall would see its first new owner, as its previous owner passed away. Joseph Meyerhoff died on February 2nd, 1985, and shortly thereafter his company, Monumental Properties, decided to sell the mall. On June 26, 1985, Eastpoint Mall was sold to a joint venture between the Lehman Brothers and New York-based Shopko Group for $28.5 million, despite an appraisal of over $45 million at the time. By this time, Hutzler's was declining and began to close their stores, starting with the Inner Harbor location in 1986. At the same time, Hutzler's was liquidating the Hochul's store at Eastpoint, which closed on August 30th, opening later in '86 as Hochul's Value City. Following the closure of the Hutzler's at Harrendale Mall and Security Square Mall in the next few years, Hutzler's announced that they would be closing their Eastpoint Mall location on Thursday, September 21st, 1989, after a brief liquidation sale. After the loss of Eastpoint Mall's original anchor Hutzler's, on Monday, March 12, 1990, it was announced that Shopko would orchestrate a $21 million renovation and expansion of the mall, including a brand new Sears. Shopko took a cue from the Harford Mall up in Bel Air, which had just converted their former Hutzler's to a neon food court. And Shopko decided to do just that at Eastpoint. I'll actually be covering the Harford Mall in my next episode, so stay tuned. The grand reopening at Eastpoint Mall was just in time to celebrate the mall's 35th anniversary in 1991. From October 16th through the 20th, shoppers poured into the mall to see the brand new neon-clad Atrium Cafe in the shell of the former Hutzler's, along with the food court's adjacent Sears, now open as a senior anchor. While updating the look and feel of the mall to the 90s culture and installing skylights along the concourse, it came at the loss of its fountains and trees and overall 70s aesthetic. But it gained more floor space, tenants, and a new slogan. In papers, the ads were accompanied by the tagline, quote, "a 50s classic with a brand new shine," close quote. While on television, the new commercial, which you saw and heard at the beginning of this episode, tried drawing its older crowd back in by saying, quote, "Eastpoint Mall, it's still your mall," close quote. They wanted the neon food court to draw in younger crowds, and the updated concourse to bring in the old guard. In all, the redevelopment cost Shopko over $30 million to complete. By 1991, Ames had bought out G.C. Murphy and converted the location to an Ames, accompanying Sears, JCPenney, and Value City in the old Hochschul's space as main anchors. Eastpoint was well suited to navigate into the new millennium, and by 2000, the mall had nearly full occupancy. After battling bankruptcy and multiple struggling locations, Ames closed in 2002, and the Eastpoint Mall store sat vacant for a few years. Some years later, Stephen Barry's Discount Sportswear held a job fair in the Atrium Cafe the week of May 9th, 2005, and had their grand opening in the former G.C. Murphy turned Ames later that month. It was also in 2005 that Eastpoint Mall underwent another multi-million-dollar renovation, updating the outdoor canopies, refreshing the main concourse lighting, and performing general maintenance on the property. It was at this time that Shopko would put the mall up for sale in an attempt to profit on their recently completed work. The mall changed hands on Friday, January 13th, 2006, when Shopko sold Eastpoint to New York-based Thor Equities LLC for a very handsome $112 million, netting them a pretty big profit for their hard work in keeping the mall maintained, updated, and filled with tenants. Shopko did it right, and they got paid for doing the right thing. I hope you're paying attention, Mike Cohan. 2 years later, Stephen Barry's was fighting for their life, trying to stay afloat, in and out of bankruptcy court through 2008, but they had ceased operations later that year, shuttering the Eastpoint Mall location as a result. Into the 2010s, Value City had scaled back to just the second level as a Value City furniture outlet, and Burlington Coat Factory opened a 70,000 square foot store in March 2010 on the mall level, where the Value City used to be. A DSW opened an 18,000 square foot store formerly occupied by Stephen Barry's in April of 2010, with the rest of the space becoming a Shoppers World. The value of Eastpoint Mall started suffering towards the mid-2010s, falling sharply from its $100 million valuation in years past. Area malls were attracting more illustrious tenants, and the concourses were filling with mom-and-pop shops and local vendors at Eastpoint. With Sears and JCPenney as the only non-discount anchors directly serving the working-class neighborhoods of Dundalk and Essex, Maryland, traffic generation was a problem.
Hey guys, so I'm here at the Eastpoint Mall again, and my hair looks like a radish. And this was the location for ExLog 2, right back here. And that was arguably my worst filmed video ever. I catch nothing but shit on the Dead Malls of Discord server whenever it comes up. So I have been making an attempt to refilm this place to make amends. And I gotta say that it's really weird being in here now during the COVID-19 pandemic. Everybody has to wear a mask, and a lot of shops were closed, but that's because the mall is now closing early. So the mall closes at 7 o'clock now. It used to be, I think, 9. But I just wanted to share those thoughts with you directly. Like, this is just a weird thing now, and unfortunately, this is just our new normal, I think. It's odd. It's really odd. I hope that things can return to some semblance of normalcy at some point. But we'll see, right? Time will tell.
So the footage that you just saw was from 2020, but my experience filming the Eastpoint Mall didn't start there. The reason that this episode exists is because I produced ExLog 2 back in 2017 on the Eastpoint Mall. According to the Brain Trust at the Dead Malls of Discord server, ExLog 2 was my worst episode in my entire series, and I've known that for a couple of years now. So I made it my mission to end Phase 4 of the ExLog with Eastpoint Mall Part 2, to right the wrongs of my past. So when I filmed it in 2020, it was at the height of COVID. There was an outdoor mask mandate, an indoor mask mandate, everybody was nuts, and it was just a weird time. Phase 4 was supposed to end on ExLog 67. This episode was supposed to be ExLog 67. But obviously, things took a turn, and here we are. But now it's 2021, and I did get more footage, recently in August. But before we get to that footage, I'd like to take a look back at the footage from 2017, 2018, and 2019. I filmed ExLog 2 on my first day filming for this series. I was so excited. I went out and I bought a new GoPro because I thought that would be the best camera to use for this. It was tiny, security guards couldn't see it, but that was a terrible mistake. Eastpoint Mall was the last place that I visited on my first day of filming, and when I got there, the mall was closed. But somebody was leaving, so I just slid in to the front door. I did a run and gun. I walked in the front door, rushed around, looked at a water bottle, maybe a couple other things, but I didn't take my time. I didn't soak them all in, and I just rushed through it. And nobody could really appreciate a location with a run and gun. But I still decided to post that episode, which might have been reckless as a younger producer. And I hear about it. To this day, I still hear that that's my worst episode. And I'll own that. I'm not gonna lie, that's my worst episode. But that's why we're here right now. That's why ExLog 94 exists. So without further ado, and with my apologies, here's some footage from 2017, 2018, and 2019. Enjoy. Oh boy, here we go. Right away, the shaky camera. I shouldn't have gone in, the mall's clearly closed. There's the one still shot that I got. That cup, that was it. This episode looks like it was filmed with a shake weight. Oh my god. Look at this camera work. Why are any of you still subscribed to me? This is horrible. Oh, here we go. Am I going to the food court? Nope. Back up the stairs. It was more important for me to time my speed lap around this mall than to show you the coolest food court in the world. I guess we'll just blow by the brass hen. There you go. That's ExLog 2. Where's my Oscar? I'm dead. Just consider me dead. Oh geez, the 2018 footage really isn't much better. This doesn't bode well. Alright Sal, just forget about 2017. Go straight to the atrium, and then go right to the Sears. Don't walk around the mall like you're strung out on something. Just keep your hands steady, and film with purpose. You got this. Come on man, you've got this. I'm so proud of you. You gotta throw that GoPro right in the dumpster. Get rid of it. If I tell any of you that I'm gonna get a GoPro and I'm gonna use it to film a mall, just take me out behind the barn. Put me out of my misery. That's it. That's the end of my series. If I ever do that again, that's it. Come on, get the shot right, Sal. There you go. Take a good look inside there, and that's it. Another year and another day, hopefully not running around Eastpoint Mall like a lunatic. Come on, Sal, slow that pan down. Between the spastic panning and your shake weight cam, I'm surprised the first Patreon tier you opened wasn't Dramamine going out once a month to prevent nausea and vertigo and motion sickness. Have we learned nothing over the years, Sal? Who thought it was a good idea to stand there chuckling at kids through a window while pointing a camera at them? That's one step away of standing on a playground staring at kids going down a slide when none of them are your kids. Just go to the Sears, get out of there, go look at the food court or something, just go, get out of there. You're done. You're done. Oh, no, that balloon's not creepy or anything. You'll float too, Sal. You'll float straight to jail if you keep looking at kids through windows like that, chuckling at them with a camera in your hand. Just get out of there. You're done. Bring back 2021 Sal. I like him better. In May of 2012, Eastpoint Mall went into receivership after Thor Equities defaulted on their $112 million mortgage against the valuation for the property, which had then fallen to $58.6 million. Florida-based LNR Property LLC, who was the special servicer for the lender behind Thor Equities' loan, sued to have the property go up for auction. By late May, the auction opened, and there were only 2 bids. Eastpoint was acquired by LNR Property LLC, with their winning bid coming in at $30.3 million, which was less than a quarter of its last selling price. LNR decided to unload the mall in an attempt at a small profit, and found a buyer in Baltimore-based MCB Real Estate, selling Eastpoint Mall for $33.4 million in February of 2014. MCB is a local company to Baltimore, and they claimed to be in tune with the nearby communities. Their goal was to attract higher-end retailers and to push out the local chains in an attempt to draw more money into the mall. At least that was the plan. By 2017, I had begun work producing the Expedition Log series, and on my first day of filming, Eastpoint Mall was on my list. Unfortunately, you all just saw the footage that I shot in 2017, and if you're doing yourself any favors in life, or if you care at all about your own sanity, please avoid watching ExLog 2 in its entirety, and avoid it at all costs. Let's just forget that it exists. I'll keep it there to remind myself of where I was, but let's all just forget that episode exists. By late 2017, Sears had announced their departure from Eastpoint, which you also just saw moments ago with slightly better footage than the ExLog 2 horror show. Shoppers World closed in 2018, but a Gabe's, which is a discount store sort of like Rose's or a higher-end Kmart, who sells everything from handbags to pet food, had signed a lease, opening later that year. With Gabe's opening, the mall had jumped up to near 90% occupancy, albeit with most of that number being local chains and mom and pop shops. But still, occupancy was healthy, and the rent was being paid, which is most important for a manager-owner.
Oh, hi, hon. Welcome back to Baltimore, home of the Oriole, Natty Bow, John Waters, and our very own Dan Bell, who Sal wishes he could be like. This is a ghost of Sal's pride, and I died back in 2017 when he produced ExLog 2. I wish I could tell you to go visit House of Cone, but they've been gone for a while now, hon. Make sure you go up there and get yourself some food at the food court. I heard we got good pizza up there. The whole area of Dundalk might smell like garbage. Don't worry, that's just our sewage plant. That's just them golden breastises that make Dundalk smell like garbage. I hope you enjoy your stay at Eastpoint Mall. And tell Sal never come back here. Now go up there and get out of here and get something to eat on your way out. Bye, shoppers. Bye, hon.
Sears had shuttered their Eastpoint Mall location in the first quarter of 2018, and in early 2019, I came back to the mall to see the shuttered anchor, which you also saw in the previous time montage. Then, as you saw in the first act of this episode, the world fell into a dumpster fire in 2020, as I've described ad nauseum in many previous episodes. As a result of this, malls took a beating due to COVID. However, here we are now in 2021, which is the footage you're watching right now. And despite some ongoing issues with COVID, malls are trying like hell to rebound. With that said, I think Eastpoint Mall is doing pretty well. There's still tons of local shops in the mall. This place is run by mom and pop shops and pop-up tenants, but that's okay. Local shops are tenants in a mall that serve the local community. If the local community patronizes those shops, there's absolutely no reason for them not to be tenants. This mall is an example of a retail Swiss Army knife, with stores and services custom tailored to those who shop here. Frankly, I think Eastpoint kicked COVID's ass, and I'm proud of the owners for sticking to their word of bringing in tenants that the local community wants. As I've been doing since 2017, I'm going to keep tabs on this mall in the future to see how it's doing. But for the love of the Gray Ghost, I hope not to make a new episode on this mall for a very, very long time, if ever. I'm most interested to see what the owners bring to the former Sears space, or if they just let it sit vacant, as most vacant Sears spaces are wont to do. Stay tuned to my social media for my own updates, but for those of you local to Eastpoint, I'd love to hear from you and what changes you're seeing at this awesome mall. Links to all of my social media are down below. You can catch me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, everything. It's all down below.
Hi. Yeah. Can I get that slice that you just moved? Pepperoni? Yeah. And a small Coke. No Coke? Oh, that's fine. What about cherry Coke? Thank you. It's pretty good. One bite. Everybody knows the rules. $3.7.
I'd like to thank all of you for watching my video, and especially I'd like to thank all of you that saw ExLog 2 when it first came out. Thank you so much for sticking with me. That's a huge thing. Props to you. This episode was a long time coming, and I'm happy to have finally avenged Eastpoint Mall, and to have done it justice, I hope, after the atrocity that was my second episode. If you dig this episode, you can thank Avery, who broke my balls about ExLog 2 to such a degree that I broke down and I agreed to film this episode. Avery's one of the mods on the Dead Malls of Discord server, and you can thank him by joining the Dead Malls of Discord server. It's all his fault. And you can find him on Instagram at the Neon Explorer. And I implore you all to go follow Avery. There'll probably be a special role for this episode too. I'm pondering that. So keep your eye out if and when you do join DMod. Special thanks also to my patrons and elite explorers who support me directly. While this mall is local, I spent a lot of time here, and I spent a lot of time at other malls traveling around, and now that things are opening back up, I'll be taking a lot more trips, so your direct support means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much. If you're still here with me in this episode, as always, you may as well just subscribe. Let's get it over with, let's sign the papers, let's shake hands, let's hug it out. If you dig my content, there's so much more that's coming down the line. So make sure that you're subscribed and you click the bell and set it for all notifications, because I don't necessarily trust YouTube to deliver those notifications. So please take a moment, subscribe, ring the bell. Also, I'm on Twitter and Instagram with the handle @SalvatoreAmadeo, and I can be reached more directly on the Dead Malls of Discord server. You can find that by going to discord.gg/dmod. If Facebook's your thing, you can find me at Quite Studios. Once again, links for everything are down below in my description of every video for easy access. I don't want to say that I've washed my hands of Eastpoint Mall because I'm going to visit this place pretty often. I'm a mall rat at Eastpoint Mall. But I will say that producing this episode was cathartic. And it's just me getting this off my chest. So once again, thank you all so much for watching and sticking with me through the years. And as we wind down Phase 4 of the Expedition Log series and gear up to Phase 5, I need you all to understand just how stoked I am to film this stuff and to produce these episodes. I'm just as excited to do it now as I was back in 2017 when I walked through this mall all crazy like a sugared up kid on their birthday. I'll be back soon with ExLog 95 and the Harford Mall and its weird incident that was filmed, so stay tuned. But until then, please stay safe and stay healthy out there. Have a good time all the time, take care of yourselves, and have a fantastic day.
That's 466-4200.
We weave 100% human hair to your hair for a natural, youthful appearance. You'll look years younger and feel better today. Call 466-4200 now or visit Mr. Ray in Baltimore for the best hair weave at the lowest price in town.
Eastpoint Mall. It's still your mall. You've never seen shopping quite like this. It's better than you've ever seen. You know it's great inside and we're full of pride. We want you to see our dream. We got the family covered from head to toe. There's just no better place to go. Eastpoint Mall. It's still your mall.